to get it in. Does to Smith. Jabari for three and the win. Yeah! He got it!
We are here to Field Rocks News. This is the Rocks Field Podcast. Of course, I am your host, Lashard Binkley. I am a credential writer covering the Houston Rockets and Rio Grande Valley Vipers. You can always find me on Twitter X at Binkley Hoops. You can find all my written work over at Rockets on SI, which is part of Sports Illustrated. And we are sponsored by the Believe Network. And of course, on today's show, I will be giving my quick synopsis of the Rockets' upcoming playoff series. Of course, we don't know exactly who they'll be playing yet. That'll be determined on Tuesday and Wednesday. Right now, it's between Golden State and Memphis. The winner of that game, the Rockets will be playing in the first round. But again, we won't know that until later this week. But at least it's down to two teams going into the last game of the season. It was still a possibility of 5 or 6 different teams the Rockets could play. So now at least we have a closer idea of who the Rockets may be playing. And that's going to be one of the topics I'm going to talk about is who should the Rockets prefer to play, and what's kind of cons and pros of playing both teams, Memphis or Golden State. We'll see how all that plays out. And also, I wanted to kind of talk about the keys for the Rockets, no matter who they play in the first round. I want to give kind of just quick 3 keys on what would be the main thing for the Houston Rockets. I think that will apply to either team when it comes to the upcoming playoffs. But again, the Rockets lost their final game tonight. Really didn't matter too much for the Rockets. It was just really more just to kind of get a warm up. They didn't want to have too much rust because they rested the majority of their guys, both games in LA. So Ime Udoka's talked about going into the game that he wanted to give his guys some runs. And let's just be honest, the Rockets, I won't say they didn't put effort in, because anytime you're on the court, you got to put effort in, because if you don't put effort in, that's when you actually may get hurt. But it wasn't exactly an important game for them. It was a much more important game for Denver, because with the win today, Denver actually is in the top 4 and they have home court. So it was much more important for Denver. None of the Rockets started to play more than 26 minutes. Jalen Green was over 7 from the field. So I can't say that the Rockets were, too broken up about losing this game, 126-111, and actually it was a lot worse than that going into the fourth quarter. For the Rockets scored 40 points in that fourth quarter. Rockets were down by over 30 points at one point. But again, this game was never really about wins and losses. The Rockets, they clinched the number 2 seed several days ago. They clinched home court over a week ago. So again, the Rockets were more about resting and not getting anybody hurt. Every single player played that's available outside of Jason Taylor, who was on the injured list for today, played in today's game. So again, the Rockets were just more about knocking off rust and getting ready for the playoffs. So I definitely wanted to start with the possible playoff matchups. Like I said, Golden State lost in overtime to the LA Clippers. So now Golden State is the 7th seed. They're going up against the Memphis Grizzlies, who are the 8th seed. And that winner will play the Houston Rockets in the first round in a 9-10 matchup. That winner will play the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round. So again, Tuesday, Wednesday will kind of determine that. As far as for the Rockets, the play-in goes all the way to the end of the week. But really for the Rockets, it just matters that first 7-8 game, because that winner will be coming to Houston for a first-round matchup. And I have to imagine, if it's Golden State, that may actually be a primetime game. If it's Memphis, I can almost guarantee the Rockets are going to get the Houston Texans treatment and probably be playing on Saturday, and probably an early game. But at this point, I don't think Rockets fans really care. Because at the end of the day, I think the fans in Turkey would love them to play an earlier game, because when they don't have to be up overnight trying to watch the Houston Rockets play. So I think in the long run, it actually may work out better for the Turkey fans. Let me know if that's much better for y'all. If it's let's say another 2:30 game on Saturday, would that work out better for y'all? Just let me know down in the comments. But anyway, back to Memphis and Golden State. Of course, the Rockets had a lot of success against Memphis this season, so much so that they beat them the first 3 games. That 4th game, it almost seemed like Memphis was treating it as their NBA Finals. After the game, they were saying how happy they were that the Rockets had basically, they said the word, punked them for most of the season, and that they did not want to lose that game. So that tells you how dominant the Rockets have been against Memphis for majority of the season. And when you're playing against Memphis, of course, you got to go against Ja Morant. You have to go against Jerry Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane. So they definitely have some talent on the roster, but as the Rockets have proved for most of the season, Memphis really doesn't have anybody that can guard Alperensengun, and then Memphis really hasn't seen the Rockets with the double big lineup either. So that's going to be another factor to come into. Of course, it all starts with stopping Ja Morant, and Amen Thompson, as we have seen throughout the season, will be the primary defender on Ja Morant, and that'll leave Dylan Bristol more than likely play Triple J And then it just kind of depends on who do Memphis start outside of that. Do they go with a Zach Edey? It just kind of depends on exactly how they're going to do their starting lineup. But Ahmed Thompson will definitely be on John Morant. Of course, John Morant's a superstar. Not necessarily everybody can stop him, but if anybody can at least slow him down and match him athleticism by athleticism, we saw in one of the games where Ahmed Thompson was able to block one or two of John Morant's shot, not from behind, not weak side defense, straight up and down, playing a one-on-one defense. So that's a huge deal when you're talking about playing Memphis compared to Golden State, which I'll talk about a little bit more, because Memphis is not necessarily known for moving the ball, a bunch of ball screens, down pins, running their guys off of double picks. They're not really known for that. They're more of a one-on-one team trying to get downhill, trying to get out on fast breaks. So, I mean, of course, if you're looking at the two teams, the Rockets match up better with Memphis. But of course, again, it comes all down to one-on-one matchups, and it really will come down to what can the Rockets do against Desmond Bain. I think the Rockets will be fine with John Morant going 10 for 25 from the field, but still scoring 30 points because that's not efficient. But if other guys like Desmond Bain gets it going, or Jerry Jackson Jr. gets it going, then that's when you start to run into some problems. Because Desmond Bain has had some good games against the Rockets. One game in the last couple games he had where he had 15, 20 points in the third quarter. He was just going off. He always seems to play really well against Dylan Brooks. It seems they have a friendly kind of back and forth kind of relationship where they're kind of going at each other. So Desmond Bain, to me, is kind of the key of the entire series if you're going up against Memphis, because you kind of know what you're going to get from John Morant. Ahmed Thompson is going to make John Morant work. John Morant's probably going to get his points, but they're not necessarily, may not be the most efficient points. So to me, it comes down to what Desmond Bain does on the offensive end, and if Jerry Jackson Jr. can do anything on the defensive end, because at times they've had him guarding Sengun, and Sengun's just got him in foul trouble almost every single time. So when it comes down to it, for me, the key to that matchup is Desmond Bain. Can the Rockets slow Desmond Bain down, keep him from going off for 25, 30 points? Because then that's when you start running into some trouble. When you got John Morant going for 30 points, then you got Desmond Bain going for 30 points, then you're more into a hard-nosed dogfight type of game, which is something, and I mean, yeah, the Rockets love being those tight, close games, but at the end of the day, if you can win comfortably, you'll take that every single time when it comes to these playoff matchups. So again, another thing to factor in, Memphis doesn't have a permanent head coach. Yes, I know their assistant took over when they fired their head coach maybe like a month ago, but that's still something you got to think about. I mean, when you're going into a playoff series, you don't have your head coach. I mean, especially as head coach has been as long as he had been there with the Memphis Grizzlies, that makes a big deal. So that's another thing to kind of keep in mind is, what will that coach do? Well, does he know what to do in a playoff series? One thing being an assistant, and yeah, you give your ideas to the head coach, but at the end of the day, you're not the one making the decision. So now with the firing Taylor Jenkins, what will their team look like? Will they change their philosophy going into the playoffs? Will they just play more of a freestyle type of game? So that's something to keep in mind as you go into these playoffs against a team like maybe against Memphis. Again, they don't have Taylor Jenkins is not there. He's been there for several seasons, and now he's not there. Now they're going with their interim head coach. Will he be ready? Because at the end of the day, even if it was Taylor Jenkins, I'm still giving Ime Udoka the nod over him. And I'm definitely giving Ime Udoka the nod over a interim head coach coaching his first playoff game. So another wrinkle that you have to think of with Memphis Grizzlies. Now, if you're moving over to the Golden State Warriors, that's a whole different ball game. The Rockets did slay that dragon twice this season. They had lost 15 straight to Golden State. We all know the numbers at this point. We all know what Golden State have done to the Rockets the last several years in the playoffs. We know all that. We know they have Steph Curry. We know this. But the future, any type of series against Golden State looks a lot better than it did maybe 3 or 4 months ago. Now that the Rockets have been able to beat them at home and on the road. They just beat them maybe like a week ago when they beat Oklahoma City at home and then went and beat Golden State handily. It wasn't even a close game. So, but of course, when you're talking about Golden State, and again, I'm gonna have more shows as we get closer to playoffs. We're gonna have an entire week. We're gonna practices to talk about. We're gonna have an entire week to talk about it, especially after we find out for sure who the Rockets will play. I'll dive a lot more deeper into the matchups, but it's kind of giving a quick overview of the Golden State Warriors. If you watch the game today, again, Steph Curry is still Steph Curry. He still makes huge shots. He still does what he does out on the court. But now, this will be the first time the Rockets have been playing Golden State in the playoffs without playing against Klay Thompson, who seems to just every time he plays the Rockets, I don't care if he's having a horrible season, he just seems to go off when he was playing with the Golden State Warriors. But now you're not dealing with Klay Thompson. You're dealing with Brandon Potesky. You're dealing with Buddy Hield. You're dealing with Gary Payton Jr. You're dealing with those type of players. You're not dealing with a Klay Thompson. And yeah, Draymond Green's still there, but this is not I know he's up for Defensive Player of the Year award, which is just, to me, it's just crazy to me. It's more of him putting himself into that conversation. That's not the same Draymond Green the Rocks were facing back in 2019, 2018. See, that's not the same Draymond Green they're facing. So for me, the key matchup when it comes down to the Golden State Warriors, and now, of course, they traded away Andrew Wiggins, and now they have Jimmy Butler there. Another thing to keep in mind, we don't know how it's going to play out as far as the rest of this week, but Jimmy Butler seemed to have some type of injury at the end of the Clippers game. He was hobbling around. He was having trouble just moving, and now they got to go at least play one more game, and he may not be 100% going into that series. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But at the end of the day, I just think the Rockets are too athletic even for Golden State. But Golden State poses other threats, like I was saying. They move the ball a lot, of course. That's the one thing the Rockets do still have problems with, and that's dealing with teams that run their players off of screens, have a lot of movement. Sometimes the Rockets may get caught up in those different moves and get beat backdoor, or somebody may get open on the perimeter because of a switch that's not necessarily happening. So they pose, of course, a little bit more of a threat to me than Memphis Grizzlies, because at the end of the day, they still are able to get their players open. They still have the same coach, Steve Kerr, who's still running the same philosophy. And you're still going up against Steph Curry, who, when it comes to the playoffs, he can easily go off for 40 points. And I know the Rockets shut him down last time, but you can't really count on that going forward, that he's only going to have 3 points in any more games for the rest of this season. So Golden State, like I said, they pose a different type of matchup. But again, if you're talking about just one single player that you really have to focus on with the Golden State Warriors, again, to me, it's Jimmy Butler, because you know what you're going to get from Steph Curry more than likely. He's not going to have another 3-point game. But as Jimmy Butler's not 100%, and he's not able to go out there and give them 20, 30 points, where do they get offense from? Are we worrying about Kevon Looney? I seriously doubt anybody's really worrying about Kevon Looney or Gary Payton Jr. going out there and putting up 20, 30 points. The Rockets absolutely left Gary Payton wide open the entire last game. That was the guy that they put Sengun on. They always like to put him on a non-shooter, especially when they have a double big lineup out there. That's the guy they had Sengun on, and they just let him take as many shots as he wanted to, and you saw what happened. That's exactly what they would do if Gary Payton is getting any type of time in the playoffs against the Rockets. So again, to me, Jimmy Butler is kind of the key to the entire thing. If he's going in there not 100%, that's something that I think works in the Rockets' favor, of course, at the end of the day, because you can deal with Steph Curry getting 30, 40 points, but if Jimmy Butler's going out there giving them 15 points, where else are they going to get offense from to be able to contend with the Rockets? So again, we don't know who the Rockets are going to play. And again, if it came down to Memphis or Golden State, I still much rather play Memphis if I'm the Houston Rockets, because nobody on Memphis has won MVPs and has won championships. You still got there with Steph Curry, and you never know what the heck Draymond Green can go out there and elbow somebody in the face and put him out for the entire series. It's not beyond him to do something like that. So it's a lot of unknowns with Golden State that if you don't have to deal with, I would just move on and much rather play Memphis. But at the end of the day, just going from what I see right now, the Rockets could be either one of these teams in the first round. It's not going to be, to me, a shock if they beat Golden State in the first round series, because I just think that now they just match up much better than they have at any time in the last several years, outside of the 2017-18 season, of course. So when you're looking at that, that's the two matchups that they can possibly have. As far as the Rockets, the keys for the Rockets, we know they're going to rebound. We know they're going to play good defense. It honestly comes down to Jalen Green, alperensengun. That's the key. I mean, Fred VanVleet to me is kind of taking a step back, which is good, exactly what he needs to do. Dylan Brooks, he can possibly still shoot the 40% from the field, but he's still going to be around that average. You know what you're going to get from him. Amen Thompson is going to be all over the court. I don't think you have to worry about Amen Thompson, the lights being too bright for him, because he doesn't know what he doesn't know at this point. So he just goes out there and plays. So, you're going to get an all-around performance from Amen Thompson. So for me, it comes down to Jalen Green and Alperensengun. If they play like they did against OKC and Golden State, they could beat anybody in the West. And I'm not just saying that because I cover the Houston Rockets. But if they go out there and they do what they did in those 2 games, and those 15 out of 17 games, with the level of defense the Rockets play and the fact that they can dominate, and I think people overlook the fact that the Rockets not only are the best rebounding team, but they're one of the best offensive rebounding teams in NBA history. So that makes a huge difference in the NBA playoffs when every possession is like it's like the last possession in Game 7. So any extra possessions you can get will make a huge difference. And I think that people are kind of overlooking and kind of sleeping on the fact that the Rockets are that good of a rebounding team. It's not a sexy stat, but at the end of the day, offensive rebounds can win you games. And that's something the Rockets do better than anybody in the NBA. So it really comes down to Jalen Green and Alperensengun. They perform the way they perform for most of April, pretty much all season long, especially, like I said, in those when they won 15 out of 17 games and clinched the home court and clinched number 2 seed. The Rockets can win any series. They should be able to win the first round series against Golden State or Memphis in 6 games. But again, we'll talk about that more once we find out exactly who the Rockets are playing, and we've had a practice or 2 under the belt. Like I said, we'll find out as of why I'm talking right now. Maybe they put the schedule up, but they usually will do that later in the evening. So we don't know if the Golden State and Memphis are going to play Tuesday or Wednesday, but once we find that out, that's when I can really go more in deep into the actual, actual matchup. And we'll possibly have some guests coming on to talk about the playoffs as well. Maybe a beat writer from one of those teams later in the week. I will definitely be out at the practices this week, and also I'll be out at every single playoff home game, and I'll be bringing all the pre and post everything in between like I normally do. I'll be at every single one of those games. So definitely make sure, if you're new to the channel, welcome into the channel. Make sure you subscribe, because I'm going to continue to have as much coverage as possible during the playoffs from all points of views. And also, if you already subscribe to the channel, definitely thank you for your support and continued support throughout this entire regular season, now into the playoffs. And hey, you got to be happy. The Rockets are in the playoffs for the first time in 5 seasons. So let me know down in the comments, who would you rather face, Golden State or Memphis? And definitely let me know why you would want to face one of those teams. And also let me know, who do you think are the key players for the Rockets in this upcoming series? Like I said, for me, it's Jalen Green and Alperensengun. I know it's an obvious answer, but it really does come down to those 2 players. So let me know down in the comments. As usual, I appreciate support. Make sure you check out the next episode of Rocket Fuel Podcast.